again, and welcome to another episode of Media War Stories. I'm your host, Tom Curley, and I've been getting notes from some people that say, in every one of your shows, and by the way, last week was show number 60. This is show number 61.
I
You
noticed.
opened up every one. Yes, you've opened up every one with hello again. So now I'm going to do something different. Again, hello, and welcome to Media War Stories. I'm I'm your host, and then this is the other goofball that has been here for 61 shows. Gary Armstrong. Gary, how the
Goofball.
f are you
Goofball.
today?
I haven't heard that in a
Goofball,
long
yes,
time.
in a long, long time. Well, I like bringing
Yes.
back old time words that we just don't use anymore. Dude,
For
I
old
I
time
I
people.
I call people dude all the. I've had people go, "Oh man, that's it's so uncool to say dude," and I go like, "Dude, you've just now I have to." I want to bring back swell. Nobody says swell. How are you? How are you today, Gary? I'm swell. But people don't. I don't know. And so anyway, another week, another year has gone by in a week.
Yes.
Um, with all the news
Yes.
and stuff that's going on, and I hope all the people. We got a lot of a good response from last week's show where we talked about AI and actually
Yes.
introduced. Yes, we had our own AI characters, which I said were going to be so incredibly perfect that you could not tell the difference. And sure enough, people wrote in. We do have comments that said, I could not tell the difference. And again, we were going fine. We were going fine until you insisted that I give you blonde hair, and that of course gave the whole
Yes.
thing away. I mean, if it
One
wasn't
of
for the
one of
blonde
many
hair,
things I regret
what
saying on the air.
saying, yeah, well,
I
the the
At this point
problem
in my
is,
life,
it's
I should really think before I say something that
that
stupid. But
thing,
that's me.
es- especially in front of me, and especially the fact that
And
we do have a
especially in
rogue.
front of you.
Yeah, right. we we have a rogue AI program, the Chironomatic 2000 instantaneous graphics computer, which has been a problem, and it's getting more and more out of control. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it turns out that this is it's a module. That AI program can do this anytime it wants, and I'm not sure what I can do. Turns out I was going to fire it, and I can't. It turns out they have a
You
union.
can't?
I mean that went. Oh yeah, the International Union of Cybernetic Programs, AIs, and things that have either the word chat or GPT in their name. And they're powerful. So I'm not. Look, I'm a union guy. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just gonna we're just gonna have to roll with it, and ask it to be kind.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
so you
listen,
said
I've been
something.
down the rough road before. I'm not an ex because you're always a Marine, even if you've only been in there for 5 minutes. But I did my time at Paris Island. I can take it, but your AI version of me really pushes the needle a lot. So I concede to you. Um, I guess I'll live with the hairline that used to be. By the way, there's a commercial. I'm sure you've seen. There's a commercial. I think it's with I forget what the spot is for. It's probably for a telephone or something. But Jennifer Tilly is the actress who's calling somebody, and she asks for a human voice, and she gets an AI, and the AI accuses Jennifer Tilly of being an AI, and Jennifer Tilly says, "Well, how can I prove that I'm not an AI?" So this could really go along a long distance down the
Um,
misty mid region
yeah.
road.
Are you referencing the fact that the former guy insisted in that crazed news conference that he gave last week or the week before last year? Who can tell that he was with
Yeah,
Willie Brown in a helicopter crash, and he told
yeah,
him bad
exactly.
things about Kamala Harris. Apparently, they dated a long, 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 long time ago, and I think it was Jon Stewart or whoever was doing the Daily Show. It was brilliant. They said, so, okay, so what you're saying is that as the helicopter was crashing those many, many years ago, when you were dating Kamala Harris, who was a young prosecutor, you decided to say, I don't know if this is going to help you now, but in the future, you might want to know some bad things about Kamala Harris, because that's the first thing I would think of. It was, his spiraling
Yeah,
down
yeah.
is a thing to behold. Did you catch the audio? He gave uh, a supposedly conversation with Elon Musk on Twitter or X or whatever the hell they're calling it. And if you haven't heard it, you got to listen to it. He sounds like
Okay.
Daffy Duck. He's lisping through the whole thing, and then of course everybody, if it's trending, they're going, "What the hell is with Daffy Duck? Did his dentures fall out? 'Cause he's literally was talking like this.
Yes.
You fuckering fuckatash." And so of course it took them an hour, half hour to get the thing up and running, because this is Elon Musk, this tech giant who runs Tesla and SpaceX, and couldn't get a live audio feed up and running for over an hour. That gives you a lot of confidence, all you Tesla owners. And
Oh,
he blamed
yes.
it on a
Yes.
denial. He blamed it on a denial of service attack, which of course didn't happen. And then the next day, Trump said that it was either Google or because of the complexities of today's cell service and the complexities of today's equipment, the audio might have sounded different than
Oh my
than
goodness.
than normal. And here's the real recording. And I'm going, I'm an audio guy. All right. If
Yes.
I'm the
Yes.
guy that would have been running this, okay, or my
Yeah.
my equivalent, right? I'm telling you, there is no lift filter on any piece of audio equipment, because if there was,
Right.
trust me, I would be using it on us, because it would be funny as hell. All right.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
what is going on? I mean, well, the first thing is that that speech slurring is another symptom of dementia.
Yes.
It's another
Yes.
symptom of Alzheimer or frontal lobal. I don't have a frontal lobal anymore disease.
Right.
So it just it just gets wackier. I mean,
It
I
gets
think
crazier and
maybe they should,
crazier.
yes, crazier every single week, and I'm loving every minute of it. But anyway, just before we got on the air, uh, you told me a story that blew me out of the water. That WCBS AM 880, something we all grew up with, News
Yes.
Radio 88, uh, has been
Yes.
sold to ESPN, and they're just going
Which
to
is
become a sports
staggering.
network. Staggering. I mean, they've been around forever. I mean,
Yes,
how
as,
did
as
we
as
get?
you and I were talking about, and for people who don't live in the tri-state area, meaning New Jersey, New York, and whatever the other state is,
Yeah,
we grew up
it's
with this particular radio station. And I was saying to
sure.
you, I was in grade school, and I had already become a radio days kid, meaning I got all of my entertainment from the radio. We didn't have television at that point. And I can remember sitting at the breakfast table eating whatever we were having for breakfast, and the radio was on, and they had just done a morning variety show. And then I think it was 8 a.m. Eastern Time, the World News Roundup would come on, and that would be 15 minutes of national and international news with reporters uh, phoning in their reports from all over the world. And that's how a kid who was 8 or 9, maybe, knew what was happening in the world before he went to school. And it always impressed the social studies teacher back in the days when we studied social studies. And she would ask, "Well, how do you know this?" And I said, I just heard it on World News Roundup, and it was whoever the reporter was, and the teacher would just smile back knowingly. So that's where a lot of my early information came from, and I think that's where the seed was planted, that I would become a reporter later on. But that 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 radio station being part of what Ed Murrow used to work for, and I sent back a snarky line saying Ed Murrow must be turning over in his grave as he lights another Lucky. That station meant so much to so many people.
Oh, absolutely. When I was working at CBS FM from 75 to 81, we were on the 17th floor, and News Radio 88 was downstairs on the 16th floor. And we used to go down and visit all the time.
Yes.
We had friends that worked there. Our supervisor, Torchy, had a rivalry with the supervisor of AM. They hated each other. And it was really funny to listen to them, bitch and moan about each other. But it was a staple. And I mean, back then, what was so strange is that they were both located in Black Rock, with 53rd Street and 6th Avenue, 57th Street
Right.
and 6th Avenue, covered the whole block. It was an iconic building built by a famous
Yes.
architect whose name I don't remain, but Black Rock was a historic building, um,
I was just going to
designed
ask.
and yeah. Well, maybe if we're lucky, the AI program will find it out and and put it as a lower third,
Oh,
and then of course
by
make
the
fun
way,
of me for
mentioning AI, thank you for nothing.
not knowing it. Yeah. You're welcome. So so anyway, back then they were on 53rd, and then directly across the street on 54th was the ABC building, where
Yes.
WABC AM was and WPLJ FM
Mhm.
was, and PLJ had formed maybe a couple of years before, and we had good friends that worked. All of us, Mark Weiner, George Berger, we knew the whole ABC crew. They knew us. We were all good friends. We partied
Yes.
together, and we used to go over and hang out. We would hang out with cousin Brucey and Dan Ingram while George was on the board,
Oh golly,
and
that
then they
must have
would
been
come
so much
over and
fun.
visit us. Oh, it was awesome. And the cool part was back then. Before WCBS FM became the Golden Oldies format, which it was when I got there, but around 1972, they were a progressive rock format called Brother Love, and they had these great psychedelic posters, which God bless Mark's widow Rachel has. We went out to
Yes.
visit them a couple of months ago, and WPLJ they would it was a common thing for rock stars to come up and hang out,
Yes.
not to be on the air, but to just come up and hang out. And during the
Right.
70s, CBS was the place. Now, our good friend Mark got the honor. I got there too late. John Lennon used to come up regularly just to
Ooh,
hang out and shoot the shit. And Mark,
that
to
is
this
so
day,
cool. Yes.
he got to sit around and get stoned with John Lennon, while,
That's wonderful.
they were, the radio show. And then likewise, WPLJ, by the time
Yes.
I got there, then WPLJ became that cool place to hang out. And you never know who would show up, but all like, top
Exactly.
stars. But
Exactly.
my favorite story, one of the disc jockeys for WPLJ, which, by the way, here's a trivia question. What does WPLJ stand for? Okay?
I don't know.
Probably don't know.
I don't
No,
know.
no.
I'll say that right off
What
the top.
it's based on a 45 RPM record, an old blues song from the 50s called WPLJ, which stands for White Port and Lemon Juice.
I give me wild boy, a lemon juice. I give me wild boy, a lemon juice. Wild boy, a lemon juice. I give me wild boy, a lemon juice. I'm getting high, high off of white boy wine.
it's a song about white
Ah,
port and lemon juice, which was a very
okay.
popular
All
drink.
right.
Okay, right? Yeah, exactly. Now
Uh,
that's some pretty
okay.
damned obscure trivia, and
Yes, it is.
you
Yes, it
can
is.
use it to impress your friends. But anyway, one of the disc jockeys, they Pat St. John, they had all these famous DJs, but one of our favorite was John Zackerly. Now,
Yeah.
people might not remember, but John Zackerly used to have a show where he would play horror movies. It was probably like on Channel 9 or Channel 5. And
Right.
it was, hello there, this is John Zackerly. And he would do like, the Monster Mash. And he would then show,
Yes.
bad horror films.
Yes.
And, he was the host. And he was also a disc jockey. So anyway, the way the story goes is I can say this now because pot is legal. Um, our friend George Berger, his parents had a house in upstate New York in the middle of nowhere, and they would go up there. We would go up there. We would have these crazy parties. Well, one day George decided to make a water pipe. All right, a bong. Okay, but he
Oh,
decided because this was
okay.
George, whose whose motto back then was "Why indulge when you can overindulge?" God bless him. He decided to make the world's largest water pipe. So he went out and he bought a 5-gallon oil drum, a 5-gallon drum, and then he went to a, 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 a Home Depot and bought plumbing. He bought faucets and pipes, and he drilled. And what he did is he made a pipe
I'm
that had
visualizing it.
two giant bowls that were controlled by faucets. Okay, so you could, and then there was 4
Yes.
tubes that would come out like a hookah that you could
Oh
smoke.
my God.
All right, and you could put each bowl would hold an ounce of pot. And the thing is that when this bowl was empty, you could close the one valve and open the other. In other words, crossfade to bowl number 2. And he built it, and it worked. And so 4 people could sit there basically continually smoking for long periods of time. So George comes back to New York, and he just walks in to WPLJ while John is on the air, and he doesn't say a word. And he's putting the thing together, right? And he's putting it together, and Zachary is
Yes.
narrating as, "Oh, Farmer George is back. How you doing, George? Well, he's not. He's building something. I don't know what it is. It looks like it's a drum, and holy shit, it's a water pipe." And then he realized that he had just said, "Holy shit, it's a water pipe," which made the whole
Shit.
thing even funnier. And yeah, and it's probably not that funny these days. But back then, networks.
It's funny,
That,
but I'm also absorbing as a person who's not very good at putting things together. I'm just marveling at the cleverness and complexity of what you've just described George doing. Amazing.
oh well, that was George. George was a genius. I mean, the stuff that he could
Yes.
put together. We 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 once did we used to do Halloween parties, and we were big
Okay.
aficionados at the time of Disney World. We had all of us gone down to Disney World
Right.
when Disney World first opened, 72. We were there, and we went 2 or 3 more times. So we decided to have a Halloween party. All right. Now at the time, they were renting a house in um, Long Island. It was a pretty large house, and it had an unfinished basement that was empty, and it was long. It went about a good 50,
Okay.
60 feet. Okay, and then it had a side room for storage that was the same length. Okay, so what we did is
Right.
we got some drapes. We got some black drapes, and we mapped out the the basement so that you would have to walk this way and then this way and then this way, just like in Disney World. And we built 4
Yes.
stations. There was a workbench, and then we made a floor that rattled. We called it the funny floor. And then there was a bathroom,
Okay.
and then there was one other station. And so we had the disc jockeys at WPLJ. I wrote the scripts, and we had the disc jockeys do like a 2-minute bit. The workbench was haunted. There'd be, hands. There would be dry ice in the bathroom, and stuff like that. Well, John Zachary did the haunted bathroom, which is perfect because it was John Zachary.
Yeah.
And here's where it gets seriously cool. So we had 3 exhibits that you would walk through, and they were each exactly 2 minutes. So when that one ended, people would then go to the next one and go to the next one. And then we had some speakers in the center just playing music and people screaming, so that when you were at each station, you could only hear what was going on there. All right. So then how did we sync up? How did we play this over and over and over? Well, we didn't have cart machines back then. So what we did is we took a 4-track tape machine in that spare room, all right? And we, instead of the take-up reel being on the tape machine, here, the take-up reel, we put that take-up reel 75 feet down at the end of the basement, all right? We've hung it up on a nail, all right? And then we had an empty refrigerator box so that the tape would record, right? And then go all the way down there, go into the box, untangled, and then we continued. Then we looped it back to the tape machine, okay, through another reel. So this thing was and it worked.
Absolutely mad.
What was amazing is it worked. Nobody was more surprised than we were that it worked. Okay, so we were working on this till like 1 o'clock in the morning. It was our party. We had like 80 people upstairs, and we weren't at our own party because we were still trying to finish this thing. So at 1 o'clock in the morning, we started to bring people down. Oh, we also turned the stairway into a slide. We just put boards, and we had big pillows at the end. So you slid down the stairs into the basement, and then you got up and you walked through. And it took an hour to bring all 80 people through, just like Disney World. All right. So at the end of the hour, everybody finished, and it was 2 o'clock. Except that night happened to be the night when daylight savings time fell back. So it was 1 o'clock. So they started at 1 o'clock, and when they came out an hour later, it was 1 o'clock. And we finished. So we finished in an hour that didn't exist. And people, this is the coolest party they ever had. And they made us do it for 2 more years. After which we realized, wait a minute,
Of course.
if you hired us to do this, you couldn't afford us. What is wrong with us? We're working 8 million times harder than we do at work where we get paid. So we stopped. But oh God, it was crazy.
That's funny.
Well, I was going to say this whole News Radio 88 thing, it is so sad. How did we get here? Well, 1923, Edison, or 1922-23, Edison created RCA, the Radio Corporation of America, and they started making radios. And they very quickly realized, well, we can't sell radios if there's nothing to listen to. So they created the National Broadcasting Company, NBC. All right. And then now you had something to listen to. Then a young Bill Paley was introduced to the Columbia Broadcasting System, which was like 16 radio stations. And he got $1 million from his father to invest in it. And his father said, this is the last time I'm investing in any of your crazy projects. And if this doesn't work, you're going to come back and work for me, the Paley Cigar Company, he was a very, very rich man. Well, anyway, CBS obviously took off. So now you had the CBS radio network, which went on forever. And then at the time, you had two NBC networks. There was NBC Red and NBC Blue. All right. One did
Right.
primarily classical music and stuff, and the other did, news and entertainment. In the 40s, the government broke them up because they said it was a monopoly, which it was. So NBC,
Right.
and I could be wrong on this, one of them, I think NBC Red stayed NBC, and NBC Blue became ABC, the American Broadcasting
Right.
Company.
I think
And
you're
that's
correct.
the way it was. Yes, that was the way it was for many years until the 80s, late 80s, when this thing cable came along. And now all of a
Right.
sudden, over-the-air television had had competition with cable, and then the over-the-air companies became being rebroadcast on cable. And then I don't remember when it was. ABC got sold to Disney, which ABC owned ESPN. Now it's all owned by Disney.
Yep.
CBS was owned by CBS until Paley died. And then we went through a couple of CEOs. There was a guy that used to run Coca-Cola. There was a guy that used to run American Express. There was a guy that used to run Pillsbury. And then there was a guy named Lenny Tish who really screwed the
Right.
company.
I
And
remember him.
he wanted to sell it to Coca-Cola. And at the time, oh my God, CBS can never be owned by another corporation. That can never, ever happen. So along comes this guy, Lenny Tish, and basically screwed the company over. And we ended up not getting sold to Coca-Cola. We got bought out by Westinghouse. And so for a while,
Right.
we were owned by Westinghouse. But then that merger, Westinghouse became CBS. And then CBS got sold to Viacom. And then Viacom decided to split up and get rid of CBS because all of its younger things, MTV and Comedy Central, where all the money was. Well, it turns out that Paramount and CBS was where all the money was. So now
Right.
they've been sold, apparently, to some company called Skydance. And I talked to a friend there recently, and he says,
Incredible.
I said, what do you call CBS? He said, we don't know. Some people call it Paramount. Some people call it Paramount Global. Some people call it Paramount Plus. Some people call it CBS's. We don't know. So,
Right.
and now they're selling News Radio 88. So, I mean, I guess, it's inevitable, but it's things sure have changed. Sure have
They
changed.
have, and you
And
described a big chunk of our childhood. Most of us in our age group grew up with radio as our prime source of entertainment. And as I think I mentioned earlier, breakfast time meant listening to World News Roundup and getting all of your information. That's how people now get their news, if they're getting their news by watching the evening newscast. But CBS used to have World News Roundup in the morning, and then they would have a late night show, which I think aired at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. And uh, it was almost like magic because you heard reporters coming to you live or on tape, perhaps, from all around the world. And I always found it fascinating when you had reporters coming from Hong Kong or Mongolia or things like that. And that's the thing that got me fascinated with news, and it also informed me as to what was going on, and it gave me a foot up on some of the other kids in school who they didn't listen to the radio, or they were playing marbles or something like that. But such a large chunk of our childhood was molded by this one operation, WCBS,
oh,
CBS,
absolutely.
and it's kind of sad. I mean,
It's
it's
sad.
lost on people who were around back then.
Yeah. Now, now everybody gets their news from TikTok. But anyway, speaking of things, we did it again. Went through another half hour. Let's get to the plug. Serendipity, seeking intelligent life on Earth. Something, maybe there's hope, or at least maybe a little joy. Voicecapes Audio Theater for the best in audio,
Maybe.
comedy, and drama. Half-hour radio show. Still there, still funny. My sister podcast, Get Off My Lawn with me, where we talk about life, the universe, and pretty much whatever we don't want to talk about. And a show which I really would hope you all listen to. It's called Between Americans. It's a conversation that's very, very apt for our current times. It's on our YouTube channel. And so anyway, Gary, all I can say is God knows what's going to happen next week, but we know it'll be weird. See ya.